Hello, this is Daniel from sound.headquarters.inc. Today we are once again in collaboration with Signal Acoustics. We are installing one of their Room Essentials packages. You can see the before and after complete transformation here of the studio. What's really cool with this one is that this is actually a reinstall of a previous video on this channel. Our client was renting their previous home and now has bought this home. So they wanted Signal Acoustics to redo the design, including all of the panels that they already purchased, and some additional panels to fully treat this new space. And that is just another plus of the Room Essentials package from Signal Acoustics, is that it's always modular, always adaptable to a new room. And as you can see, Signal will do the complete room design for you once again, and then maybe someone like me comes out and installs it for you. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on the plans, which very first step is marking out the ceiling spec, because all of these sidewall panels line up with the locations of the ceiling panels. So we went ahead and did that first, just to get that out of the way so that we can begin with our wall panels. Now that we have all of our ceiling and wall measurements made, I can now set up the height of my laser level to shoot around the room, and that will give me a consistent height for me to mount all of my French cleats around the room. So these are the French cleats that Signal includes with all of their panels. This is the side that mounts into the wall, and then they have an opposing side that is actually built into the rear face of the panel that you can just hang onto that cleat on the wall. Here's everything that I'm using to install it. I'm using these drywall anchors, I'm using my drill, I'm using construction screws, and it's just that simple. So here's the step-by-step playthrough of how I install these French cleats into the wall. So I line it up on my mark and on my laser. I drill through with a small drill bit to give me pilot holes in both the French cleat and in the drywall. Then I can drill out that drywall a little bit larger to accommodate for the drywall anchors. You see me drilling those out a little bit thicker. Then I can drill in the actual drywall anchors here, and then drive in the cleat with the construction screws straight into those drywall anchors. Now on these, actually, I ended up hitting stud, so you did not see me drive in drywall anchors into that specific panel, but that's how we're doing it all around the room in the spots that we do not hit stud. And there you can see I can just lift that panel straight on, and there you go. And what's great about using this cleat method is that once you mount the panel, you still have a few inches of left to right adjustability to actually fine tune the panel placement. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the cleats mounted around the room. All of the vertical cleats, those will be mounting on that laser line. And there you can see we got some of those put up on the sidewalls. And now while I begin working on the other sidewalls, Christian, who's helping me out on this build, is going to be prepping the ceiling clouds. So he is drilling pilot holes into each corner of these cloud panels, and he is going to be screwing in these open eyelet screws. Now, usually we would use closed eyelet screws and a locking quick link to lock them into the ceiling hardware. But for this particular build, we needed to have this ceiling panels be as low profile as possible, meaning as small of an air gap as possible, to keep them as tight to the ceiling as we can. So we used open hardware on the cloud. That way we can just hang the cloud hardware directly onto the ceiling hardware, giving us as small of an air gap as possible. So now we are working on the right side wall, and this wall has to work around that piano. So Christian and I are just moving that into position according to Signal's plans and installing all of those panels around it as well. Now there's a horizontal panel right here. And once again, what's great with this build is that we're able to reuse all of the panels that were in the previous build. And there you can see we got majority of the wall panels put up, and that nice thick Hugo panel from Signal Acoustics in that rear position there. And there's a bunch of the wall panels already good to go. So now we're going to work on this rear wall section here. This one is getting one of Signal Acoustics Hugo panels as well, and also some of the smaller custom bass traps that were built for the client's previous room. And I will link in this video description the previous video to check that out if you want to see the last build that we did using all of these panels. And that's one of the big major pluses of working with Signal Acoustics and buying these premium panels, is that they're completely modular and it's a long-term investment. You can use these on future builds, and you can always just pack them up, move them to a new studio or new location, new house, and reinstall them, and they will be good as long as you don't ruin them or destroy them. And even if you do, they can be refurbished. It's just a great long-term investment. It's just like a piece of gear, right? So it's kind of a studio essential, and it's just a great long-term thing to add to your studio. So now we're going ahead and getting all of the ceiling hardware put into the ceiling. So we're using those same drywall anchors, and then we're using closed eyelet screws. And what was easy about this ceiling spec is that all of the cloud panels are right in a row with each other, as you can see. So we could just set up the laser 2 times for each row of hardware. And then we can just get our measurements and simply drill out all of our holes and drill in the drywall anchors, screw in our eyelet screws, and then these cloud panels just slide right into that hardware. So the open eyelets on the clouds just locks right into the closed eyelets on the ceiling. And there you go. So we use those 2 cloud panels with Signal Acoustics Raya reflector plates on them in the first and second positions, so that we have some reflections being reintroduced into the mix position so that the mid and high frequencies aren't too deadened. You'll see those Raya reflector panels on the first reflection panels on the sidewalls as well. And now we're going ahead and working on these big bass traps. So these bass traps are from the Coco line of bass traps from Signal Acoustics. And in the previous studio, these were mounted on the front wall corners. But in this spec, these are getting mounted in the rear wall upper corners where they meet the ceiling. So we're using those metal cleats in 2 positions. Here we had to space it out from the wall a little bit just to account for that cabinet trim. It was just too short to clear, so we had to space that out just by 3/4 of an inch, which is not a big deal. That type of stuff we encounter on site, and we can just deal with it on the fly and make sure that everything gets installed the way it should be according to the spec. So now we have everything installed. The only thing that is missing now is the 4 Sonos bass traps from Signal Acoustics. Those are cylindrical bass traps, really slick design, helps diffuse and absorb bass frequencies. And those are going to be going into all 4 corners of this room. And you'll see those in just a minute here after these glamour shots. So we went ahead and we actually completed this install in 1 day, while Signal Acoustics was building the Sonos bass traps at their shop. And once all of those bass traps were built, then I came out and delivered those bass traps back on site, got them all set up, helped the client kind of tune their monitors. There are those Sonos bass traps, really slick design with a nice wooden finished end cap on the top and bottom. And what's great about these bass traps is that you don't really have to install them. They just rest on the floor and you can place them wherever you need around the room. So there's 4 of those in all 4 corners of the space, and really hope you guys enjoyed watching and following along. Please subscribe for more studio building content. This has been Daniel from Sound Headquarters and Signal. Peace out. Thanks for watching.